Have you ever wondered why, after leaving a toxic relationship, you can't force yourself to clean your apartment? Why do you look at piles of clothes, stacks of papers, and general chaos, but some invisible force stops you from taking action? If you think it's just laziness, I'm here to tell you it has nothing to do with laziness. It has everything to do with how narcissistic abuse literally reprograms your brain. Over the past 10 years of research on victims of narcissistic abuse, I've discovered something that shook the foundations of my understanding of the human psyche. What you'll see in this material may forever change how you perceive your own behaviors after narcissistic trauma. Prepare yourself for truths you may not want to hear, but absolutely must know. When Freud spoke about how the unconscious controls our actions, he probably didn't imagine how deeply the human mind could be manipulated through systematic emotional abuse. Today's victims of narcissistic abuse experience something that goes beyond traditional understanding of trauma. This is reprogramming at a neurobiological level. Imagine that your mind is a computer and the narcissist is a hacker who systematically damaged your software for months or years. Every act of gaslighting, every manipulation, every humiliation left a trace in your neural pathways. Now, when the narcissist is no longer beside you, your brain still operates according to the damaged program. But the most terrifying thing isn't what the narcissist did to you. It's the fact that you probably don't even realize how deeply it affected you. You think the problem is that you can't motivate yourself to clean, but the real problem is much deeper and more complex. What I'm about to tell you is based on hundreds of clinical cases and the latest research on brain neuroplasticity in victims of narcissistic abuse. Some of these symptoms may seem familiar to you, others may completely surprise you. But one thing is certain: after this material, you'll never think about the mess in your home the same way again. Every victim of narcissistic abuse I've worked with showed specific behavioral patterns related to caring for their living space. These patterns aren't random. They're the direct result of survival strategies that your mind developed to cope with the unimaginable stress of a toxic relationship. The first thing you need to understand is the mechanism I call the decision paralysis loop. This is one of the most insidious ways narcissistic abuse destroys your ability to function in daily life. When the narcissist criticized every one of your decisions for months or years, your brain learned one thing: making decisions is dangerous. Now, you stand in your room looking at the mess, and your mind goes into overload mode. Where do I start? What should I do first? What if I do it wrong? These questions spin in your head like a malicious carousel that never stops. This isn't ordinary indecision. This is a neurobiological reaction to years of systematic undermining of your ability to think. The narcissist knew exactly what they were doing when they questioned every one of your decisions. When they said, "Why do you always do everything wrong?" Or "You can't even handle simple things." They weren't just insulting you, they were programming your brain to fear taking any action whatsoever. Research conducted by Dr. Christine Louise de Canonville discovered that victims of narcissistic abuse show significant damage in the brain region responsible for decision-making, the prefrontal cortex. This means your inability to decide where to start cleaning isn't a sign of weakness. It's physical damage to your brain. But here's something probably no one told you. This decision paralysis also serves as a defense mechanism. Your subconscious believes that if you don't make any decision, you can't make a mistake. And if you don't make a mistake, you won't be punished. This is the logic of a traumatized mind, and it makes more sense than it might seem. Freud spoke about how our unconscious defense mechanisms can protect us, but also imprison us. In the case of victims of narcissistic abuse, decision paralysis is simultaneously a shield and a prison. It protects you from possible attack, which won't happen anymore, but also keeps you in a state of immobility. When you look at your dirty apartment and feel that overwhelming inability to act, your mind isn't lazy. It's fighting for survival, using strategies that once saved you. The problem is that now these same strategies are destroying you. And where are you watching this material from? What city are you following these truths about narcissistic abuse from? Leave a comment. Sometimes just writing the name of your city can be the first step toward regaining control over your life. But decision paralysis is only the first level of this problem. What I'm about to show you will reveal much deeper mechanisms. The second reason why victims of narcissistic abuse avoid cleaning is related to something I call broken mirror syndrome. Your living space has become a physical manifestation of your inner chaos, and cleaning would mean confronting what the narcissist destroyed in you. Think for a moment. Was your apartment always this messy? Probably not. Before the narcissist, you probably had some system, some routine, some standards about how you wanted to live. But what happened? The narcissist systematically destroyed your sense of self-worth until you finally stopped believing you deserve a clean, organized place to live. This isn't a metaphor. This is a literal description of how narcissistic abuse affects your perception of yourself. When the narcissist repeatedly told you that you're worthless, incompetent, that you can't do anything right, your brain began to internalize this. And now, when you look at the mess around you, you don't see dirty dishes. You see proof that the narcissist was right. Dr. Judith Herman, a pioneer in post-traumatic stress disorder research, proved that victims of long-term psychological abuse often develop what she calls complex post-traumatic stress disorder. One of the symptoms is complete loss of self-worth, to the point where the victim doesn't believe they deserve even basic amenities, like a clean apartment. But here's the cruelest part of this mechanism. The mess in your home becomes a self-perpetuating loop. The messier it gets around you, the worse you feel about yourself. The worse you feel about yourself, the less motivation you have to clean. The less you clean, the messier your home becomes, and the circle closes. Freud very wisely wrote about how our external environment reflects our internal psychological state. But in the case of victims of narcissistic abuse, this reflection becomes distorted by trauma. Your space doesn't show who you really are. It shows who the narcissist convinced you that you are. When you avoid cleaning, your subconscious does it for a very specific reason. Cleaning would mean admitting you deserve better. And if you've heard for years that you're worthless, this thought may seem not only false, but actually dangerous. I've seen victims who literally cried at the thought of even buying new clean sheets for themselves, because deep down they believed they didn't deserve such luxuries. This is the power of narcissistic programming. Even basic hygiene and comfort become forbidden territory. But that's not all. Most victims don't realize the next mechanism, which is even more insidious. The third reason victims of narcissistic abuse avoid cleaning is the most paradoxical and often least understood. It's what I call control trauma. A situation where taking any organizational action triggers in the victim a feeling of resubmitting to the narcissist's control. For years of your relationship with the narcissist, every aspect of your daily life was subject to their inspection, criticism, and control. The way you made your bed, where you put your cup, how you arranged your shoes by the door, everything was a pretext for attack, criticism, or humiliation. Your mind learned to associate order with danger. Now, when the narcissist is gone, your subconscious still functions according to these rules. When you think about cleaning, your brain immediately activates the alarm. Warning, if you're too organized, too neat, the narcissist will find a way to attack you. Of course, the narcissist is gone, but your nervous system doesn't understand. This This is one of the most insidious aspects of narcissistic abuse. The narcissist didn't just destroy your ability to be organized. They made organization a source of anxiety for you. Every act of cleaning becomes a subconscious act of submission to their former demands. Dr. Lundy Bancroft, an expert on domestic violence, describes this as internalization of the perpetrator's critical voice. Even when the narcissist isn't physically present, their voice still lives in your head, commenting on your every action. And when you start cleaning, that voice awakens. Don't do it right. You never know how to do anything properly. Why even try? But there's an even deeper level to this. Cleaning also means making decisions about what to keep and what to throw away. It means actively shaping your space according to your own preferences. For someone who was deprived of the right to their own preferences for years, this can be terrifying. Many victims tell me, "I don't even know what I want. I don't know what I like. I don't know how I want my home to look." This isn't ordinary indecision. This is the effect of systematic destruction of your sense of identity. The narcissist told you for so long what you should like, how you should live, that now you don't know who you are without their instructions. Freud wrote about how our behaviors are often motivated by unconscious fear of returning to a traumatic situation. In the case of victims of narcissistic abuse, avoiding cleaning is an unconscious attempt to avoid re-experiencing control and criticism. But this mechanism has another, more complex layer that I must show you. The fourth reason is probably the most painful to accept. Victims of narcissistic abuse often avoid cleaning because they no longer know who they are without the narcissist. Cleaning would mean creating space for yourself. But the problem is, you no longer know who that self is. For years of relationship with the narcissist, your identity was systematically erased and replaced with what the narcissist expected from you. Your interests, preferences, even the way you like to arrange your apartment. All of this was questioned, criticized, and ultimately replaced by the narcissist's vision. Now, when you have a chance to create space just for yourself, you suddenly realize a terrifying truth. You don't know how this space should look. You don't know what colors you like, what style suits you, whether you prefer minimalism or cozy clutter. These preferences, which should be natural and obvious, have been erased. Dr. Alice Miller, a psychoanalyst specializing in the effects of emotional abuse, calls this soul murder. The narcissist didn't just hurt you. They killed your authentic personality and replaced it with a version of yourself that was only a reflection of their needs and desires. When you look at your dirty apartment, you're actually looking at a physical manifestation of this identity murder. This mess isn't just the effect of lack of motivation. This is space in suspension, space waiting for someone who no longer exists, the old version of you, or for someone who doesn't yet know who they are, the new version of you. This is why so many victims tell me, "I don't even know where to start." This isn't a question about cleaning. This is an existential question. Who am I? What do I want? How do I want to live? These are questions the narcissist never allowed you to answer. Freud, in his theory about the id, ego, and superego, showed how our psyche consists of different parts. But what happens when one of these parts, our authentic self, is systematically attacked and destroyed? What remains is emptiness, chaos, lack of direction. Cleaning would mean making aesthetic and practical decisions based on your own preferences. But how can you make decisions based on preferences you don't know? How can you arrange space for a person you can't define? This is one of the cruelest ironies of narcissistic abuse. When you finally have the freedom to create space just for yourself, you discover you no longer know who that self is. And this uncertainty can be more paralyzing than any criticism from the narcissist. But here's something probably no one told you about the next mechanism. The fifth reason victims of narcissistic abuse avoid cleaning is something I call toxic Perfectionism, a distorted all-or-nothing way of thinking that the narcissist implanted in you. This isn't ordinary perfectionism. This is a sabotaging mechanism that makes every task seem impossible to accomplish. Here's how it works. You look at your apartment and your mind immediately visualizes only two possible scenarios. Either the apartment will be perfectly clean and organized like in an interior design magazine, or it's not worth starting at all. There's nothing in between. There's no room for good enough or better than yesterday. This type of thinking isn't accidental. The narcissist bombarded you with criticism for years that left no room for errors or imperfection. Do you remember those comments? If you can't, do it right, don't do it at all. Why do you always do everything half-heartedly? You can't be trusted with even simple things. These words were recorded in your mind as fact. Now, when you think about cleaning one drawer, your brain automatically compares it to the necessity of reorganizing the entire apartment. When you think about washing dishes, you immediately see the need to renovate the entire kitchen. This is a trap. If a task can't be performed perfectly and completely, your mind rejects it. Dr. Brené Brown, in her research on perfectionism, proved that this type of thinking is actually a strategy for avoiding anxiety. Perfectionism isn't about high standards. It's about control and protection from criticism. The problem is that when these standards are unattainable, perfectionism becomes paralyzing. In the case of victims of narcissistic abuse, this perfectionism has another malicious dimension. Your mind believes that if you do something imperfectly, it will be proof that the narcissist was right about you. Every imperfection becomes confirmation of their worst accusations. Imagine this situation. You start cleaning one corner of the room. You do it quite well, but not perfectly. A few things remain in place, some dust in a hard-to-reach spot. For a healthy mind, this would be success. One corner is significantly better than before. But for a mind programmed by a narcissist, this is failure. This is proof that you never know how to do anything right. Freud wrote about how our superego can become a tyrant if it becomes too rigid. In the case of victims of narcissistic abuse, this tyrannical superego is literally the narcissist's voice that still lives in their mind. But the most insidious aspect of this mechanism is this. Toxic perfectionism creates an illusion of high standards, while in reality it's a strategy for avoiding action. This isn't a desire to do things well. This is fear of doing things at all. And now prepare yourself for one of the most painful truths about the next mechanism. The sixth reason is something that's probably hardest to understand, but simultaneously crucial. Narcissistic abuse literally reprogrammed your neurological reward system. Your brain stopped releasing dopamine in response to normal, healthy achievements. Like a cleaned apartment, for years of relationship with the narcissist, your reward system was subjected to extreme training. The only moment when you received any positive reaction, and even that was rare and unpredictable, was when you did exactly what the narcissist expected, in exactly the way they expected it. All other achievements were ignored, minimized, or even criticized. Your brain, being an adaptive organ, adjusted to these conditions. It stopped producing the feeling of satisfaction from normal, everyday achievements. Why? Because for years, it learned that these achievements have no value. At least that's what the narcissist repeatedly told you. Dr. Helen Fisher, an anthropologist studying the neurobiology of love and attachment, showed that prolonged exposure to unpredictable reward, exactly what the narcissist does, creates a pattern similar to addiction. Your brain stopped responding to normal levels of stimulation and now needs extreme experiences to feel any satisfaction. This means that when you now clean one table or wash a few dishes, your brain doesn't register this as an achievement worth. Attention, you don't get that small dopamine hit that motivates healthy people to continue acting. Instead, you feel nothing, emptiness, lack of any sense of fulfillment. There's something even more insidious about this. The narcissist, probably, actively sabotaged your sense of satisfaction from achievements. Do you remember those moments when you were proud of something you did, and the narcissist immediately found a way to minimize it? It's nothing big. Anyone could do that. You could have done it better. These comments weren't accidental. The narcissist intentionally destroyed your natural motivation systems, so you would become more dependent on their approval. This is one of the cruelest forms of control, making a person unable to derive satisfaction from their own achievements. Freud wrote about the pleasure principle as a fundamental driver of human behavior. But what happens when this system gets damaged? When things that should bring pleasure, like a clean apartment, organized space, stop being a source of any positive emotion? Imagine living in a world where none of your daily achievements give you a sense of fulfillment, where cleaning a room, cooking a meal, or organizing a closet brings no satisfaction. In such a world, why even try? This is one of the most insidious aspects of narcissistic abuse. It not only destroys your ability to act, but also takes away your ability to derive joy from the results of that action. But what I'm about to show you may be the most important mechanism of all. The seventh and perhaps deepest reason victims of narcissistic abuse avoid cleaning is something I call visibility trauma. The mess in your apartment isn't just a side effect of trauma. It's an active defense strategy. You're hiding in chaos because order would mean exposing yourself to view, and being visible means the risk of another attack. For years of relationship with the narcissist, you learned that being visible means being a target. Everything you did well, every achievement, every moment when you looked happy or fulfilled became a pretext for narcissistic attack. The narcissist couldn't stand your happiness, your successes, your joy in life, so you learned to hide them. Now, even when the narcissist is gone, your subconscious still functions according to this logic. If my home is beautiful and organized, if I look like a person who has their life under control, I'll become a target. Someone will want to destroy me. Better to stay invisible. The mess becomes your invisible cloak. When your apartment is chaotic, when you don't take care of yourself, when you look like a person who can barely manage, you feel safer. No one will be jealous of your life. No one will want to bring you down to earth. No one will see you as a threat. Dr. Pete Walker, an expert on post-traumatic stress disorder, describes this as a fawning strategy. Victims of long-term emotional abuse often develop behaviors designed to protect them from further attacks, even when those attacks no longer occur. But here's the saddest part of this mechanism. By hiding in the mess, you're not only protecting yourself from potential attackers, you're also hiding from potential friends, partners, opportunities. You're isolating yourself from the life you could have. Do you remember how the narcissist reacted when you had a good day, when something went well for you, when you looked happy? They probably immediately found a way to destroy it. This wasn't accidental. Narcissists can't stand the sight of happy, fulfilled people because it reminds them of their own inner emptiness. Now your mind has created an equation: visibility, danger, invisibility, safety. A cleaned apartment means visibility. It means admitting that you hope for a better life. It means signaling to the world that you believe you deserve beautiful things. But what if someone wants to take that away from you again? Freud wrote about defense mechanisms as unconscious strategies of the psyche designed to protect us from pain. Visibility trauma is one of the most complex defense mechanisms. It protects you from possible attack, but simultaneously imprisons you in a life below your potential. Here's the truth I must tell you. Your mess isn't a sign of failure. It's a sign that your mind is still fighting for your survival, using strategies that once saved you. The problem is that now these same strategies are imprisoning you. But there is hope. And what I'm about to show you in the next chapters can change everything. The eighth mechanism is something that may be hardest to swallow. It's the paralyzing spiral of shame, a situation where the mess in your apartment becomes not only an effect of your trauma, but also proof that the narcissist was right about you. This is a closed loop that can imprison you for years. Here's how it works. You start avoiding cleaning for all the reasons we've already discussed. The mess grows. The longer the apartment remains uncleaned, the more you start believing the narcissist's narrative that you're incompetent, lazy, worthless. The mess becomes physical proof that their assessment was correct. This is one of the cruelest aspects of narcissistic programming. The narcissist didn't just destroy your ability to take care of yourself. They created a situation where your inability to take care of yourself becomes confirmation of their worst accusations. This is a perfect psychological trap. Imagine this scenario. You look at your dirty apartment and hear the narcissist's voice in your head. See, I told you that you can't do anything. Look at yourself. Look how you live. Who would want to be with someone like you? And the worst part is that, looking at the chaos surrounding you, you start to believe them. Dr. John Bradshaw, a therapist specializing in toxic shame, explains that shame differs from guilt in that guilt concerns what you did. I did something bad. While shame concerns who you are. I am bad. Narcissists are masters at transforming healthy guilt into toxic shame. Now this shame lives in your apartment. Every dirty plate isn't just a dirty plate. It's proof that you're a person who can't even handle basic things. Every pile of clothes isn't just clothes. It's a symbol of your laziness and lack of discipline. But here's something the narcissist never told you. This mess isn't proof of your character flaws. This is proof of how badly you were hurt. This is a physical manifestation of psychological trauma. This is your mind fighting for survival the best way it knows how. Freud understood how our external behaviors can become a way we express our internal conflicts. Your mess isn't laziness. It's an unconscious expression of the pain you carry inside. The shame spiral is particularly dangerous because it creates a false prophecy that fulfills itself. The more you're ashamed of your apartment, the less likely you are to invite people over. The fewer people you invite, the more you isolate yourself socially. The more isolated you are, the easier it is to believe the worst things about yourself. This is another level of the narcissist's control. Even when they're no longer physically there, they still control your life through the shame they implanted in you. But this control can be broken, and that's exactly what begins in the next chapter. The ninth reason concerns something fundamental. The inability to begin the cleaning process because it would mean beginning the process of rebuilding yourself. And that may be the most terrifying prospect of all, because it means confronting who you really are under all the layers of narcissistic programming. Cleaning isn't just a physical action. It's an act of regaining control over your space, your life, your identity. It's a declaration. I deserve better. I'm worth taking care of myself. I have the right to create beautiful space for myself. For someone who heard opposite messages for years, this can be terrifying. Every cleaned room is a step toward reclaiming yourself. Every decision made about what to keep and what to throw away is an exercise in discovering your own preferences. Every moment when your apartment starts looking better is proof that the narcissist was wrong, that you can take care of yourself, that you deserve beautiful things, that you have the strength to change. Dr. Judith Herman, in her groundbreaking work on healing after trauma, speaks of three phases: safety and stabilization, remembrance and mourning, and reconnection. For victims of narcissistic abuse, cleaning often means transitioning to the third phase, reconnecting with your authentic self. But here's a truth no one tells you. This process can be painful, because when you start cleaning, when you start regaining control over your space, you realize how much you lost. You see how devastated your life became. You feel anger about what was taken from you. And that anger can be overwhelming. Freud wrote about how the healing process often requires going through pain before achieving recovery. Cleaning after narcissistic abuse isn't just organizing things. It's organizing your life, your psyche, your future. But there's also deep hope in this. Every day when you take small action, even something as simple as washing one plate or making your bed, that's a day when you tell the narcissist, "You no longer have power over me. I'm reclaiming my life. I deserve better. Remember, your mess isn't proof of your failure. It's proof of how badly you were hurt. But your ability to make small, gradual changes, that's proof of your strength, of your resilience, of the fact that the narcissist didn't destroy you completely. If you've made it to this point, it means you're ready for change. Everything you heard today weren't excuses. They were explanations. Now that you understand the mechanisms that were blocking you, you can begin to consciously break through them. Start with one small thing. Today, not reorganizing your entire apartment. One drawer, one corner, one plate. Show your mind that you deserve care. Prove to the narcissistic voice in your head that it was wrong. Your journey back to yourself begins with one simple decision. The decision that you deserve better. And perhaps the greatest irony is that the person who tried to destroy you ultimately showed you how strong you are. Because if you survived the narcissist, you can handle anything. Write in the comments one thing you'll clean today. Let this be your first step toward reclaiming your life. You deserve it. Everyone who went through narcissistic abuse carries incredible strength within them. The fact that you're watching this material today, that you're seeking answers, that you want to change, this is proof that the narcissist didn't break you. You can be proud of yourself. Your journey back to yourself has already begun.